now. Okay. Good morning. This is Anna Amelia from North East Animal Rights. We are doing another one of our Saturday Spotlight interviews, and today we're delighted to have Tony Martin, who is the editor of Growing Green International. So thank you very much for giving me your time today. We really do appreciate it, and we hope you're well. Yep. Without further ado, we're going to go straight into the questions. But the first question is one which I ask most people, really. It's fundamental to what we do as a group. So can you tell us about your journey into veganism? Did you have a light bulb moment, or was it a gradual process? Did you maybe go through vegetarianism?
Hi, yes. Well, thanks for having us, first of all. And yes, it wasn't so much a light bulb moment. I'd always been taught to be caring about animals by my parents and stuff. And I could see there was a slight disparity between petting a dog and eating a cow. And to be honest, I was a huge meat and dairy eater when I was younger. I mean, I literally lived on it. I was very unhealthy as well. I spent a lot of time being ill. But of course, in those days, the internet was created in 1993, and you couldn't find out information other than just having to wander in and speak to a vegetarian. So I became vegetarian in 1978, and I think I rescued a pigeon that had been injured by a car, and I took it and looked after it, and then I got offered chicken for tea, and I thought, well, I care or I don't care. It's got to be one or the other. It's ludicrous. So that was that. And at that time, vegetarians were scarce enough, and they were a bit. Anyway, so vegans, you imagine what they looked like in those days. And it kind of put me off being vegan for a long while, because I thought, anyway. But eventually the leaflets got through. I went to demonstrations. I helped with a young vegetarians group in Marlowe's Road in London back in those days. And finally, with a friend, we had one last whisper bar together, and that was 1986, and I've been vegan ever since. Never regretted it, only that I didn't do it earlier. And later in that year, I entered the Camel Half Marathon as a vegan, which I was well chuffed with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So straight away you're kind of like showing how fit and healthy you can be on a vegan diet, which is the exact opposite how how a lot of people see us. It's in pasty, thin. We can't sort of do anything. Yeah, exactly.
Well, a couple of years ago, when I was 59, my son said to me, I'm going to go and do this rat race dirty weekend thing, which is like running and obstacle courses. And I said, oh, I'll do it with you. We did 14 miles and 150 obstacles, and I survived. So that's 59 years later. So
that's pretty
don't
good.
Believe what they say.
That's pretty good going. And something you said as well, everybody says this, that they wish they had done it sooner. I was exactly the same. I think there's kind of like a emotional barrier, and if you're a vegetarian, emotional barrier in your head, because you think it's going to be hard. And actually I was so sort of frustrated. I thought, I can't believe how easy this actually is, and I should have done it so much sooner. And everybody I've talked to is saying that. So you believe that veganism doesn't stop just at the food we eat and the products we buy, that we should look at how our food is produced. So how did you get interested in this, and how did you then see the extension into organic farming and fruit and veg production?
I think when I was vegetarian, I thought, well, if I'm going to go the whole way, I was going to say the whole hog, we've really got to sort out some alternative phrases here, It couldn't be just that. You had to look deep in that. You had to look at things like fair trade as well, where it comes from. And I remember hearing about grain being fed to cattle in Ethiopia. And then we were bringing over, eating them over here and things like that. So the whole thing it's all one big mixed up thing. And obviously the animal rights side. And I think we at Von bring up a kind of another piece of the puzzle, because obviously you've got the non-animal testing, not wearing animals, not eating animals, but animals in standard agriculture are a huge part. They die in huge numbers because of the way we grow, with pesticides. Huge amounts of pesticides kill huge amounts of animals. Huge amounts of blood, bone, fish meal, etc. are used to fertilize things. So it can't be just one thing if you really, really care about the animals.
Yeah. So currently the government's given massive sums of money to bail out the industries who exploit animals. You know, I mean, I know sort of people like the Animal Justice Project have done sort of like big, you know, like Twitter floods to try and, you know, to try and bring people's attention to the fact that we are giving this money to the industries, and the industries are dying. So what do you think, apart from obviously the government stopping doing this, what do you think they should be doing to promote organic farming, as well as making it more accessible for smallholders and private households, and encouraging it as a way of life, you know, a lifestyle with a less negative impact on the environment?
I think the trouble is that government are dinosaurs. They're huge monstrosities that take a long while to get going. And I don't, obviously, I'm trying not to be political here, but at the end of the day, who we vote for, a government led by someone like Jeremy Corbyn is going to be a very different government,
Yeah.
very different policies to someone like we've currently got. So I would say that is the biggest stumbling block, is getting a government in, whoever it is, that actually really cares about people, about the environment. And until that happens, we can't see major change. So I would say get out there and be political as much as being a vegan and stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is, of course, is lobbying by fossil fuel companies. You know, most of the nitrogen is produced by fossil fuel. It's Haber process that converts nitrogen, and nitrogen is one of the limiting processes, one of the limiting factors for growth of plants. So we've got the huge amounts of money coming in lobbying in that. So I think we've just got to keep going and badger people. Sorry, would you repeat the question a bit as well? So
Yeah,
I've
it's
not
just,
covered the ground.
yeah, we're just sort of like looking at how you know, how the government, whichever government it is, how we can make, you know, the promoting organic farming and more more sustainable and accessible ways of living. I mean, you know, the government has already said there's a climate change, you know, crisis. We know that all governments and all parties have accepted that. So
Yes.
you know, what should the government be doing to try and promote that and try and get on board with, you know, helping people to live more sustainably?
Well, certainly getting rid of money to dairy and meat from the government would be a huge step forward.
Yeah.
It would show the real price differences when you take into account the inefficiencies of animal and other farming. Small scale stuff, making more allotments available for people, making sure that when houses are built, they're built with a garden rather than a handkerchief out the back where you can just fit 2 lilos, you know.
Yeah.
We could, for instance, take away VAT on things which encourage people to grow.
Yeah.
They could put money into groups to organize people together. So there's so many ways in which the government could help. Whether or not they will, that's down to us and to lobbying as well. I mean, we can lobby. There are limits to what they will do depending on their own personal views, but let's get out there, become a councillor, become an MP.
Yeah.
You're the one who can make the difference.
Yeah. One of my very good friends, Alan, he's got a really big allotment, and Leslie, who's in the group as well, and it's really, really good to see sort of them putting the money where the mouth is, because they are they grown produce and bring it home. And I mean, I've had the pleasure of tasting some of Leslie's lovely stuff, and it tastes so much better as well. You can see where it's come from. You know the provenance straight away. It's not sort of like being traveled. It hasn't traveled for miles. And you notice it looks totally different to what you actually get in the shops now, the turnips and the leeks and everything, which they grow. But that's how I remember them when I was a kid. When my dad used to grow them in his allotment, that's exactly how they look like, and they smell different as well. They smell so much fresher.
Yeah. And of course, with commercial growing, you get a limited number of seeds because they store well. For instance, like with tomatoes, you get these round rocks which store well, which is great for the supermarkets, but they have no taste. I think it's very likely that they're not as good for us because they don't have the wide range of ingredients that natural tomatoes would have. So I mean, I thought courgettes tasted of chemicals for years because I bought shop bought ones until I tasted some organic ones. You can eat them like apples, and they don't taste of.
Yeah, it's funny enough, it's the tomatoes which I remember, and tomatoes and cucumbers, because when my dad used to grow, I mean, obviously the cucumbers were all funny shapes and not the little cylinders you get now, and you can smell them. The smell so just beautiful, and you can smell it on your hands when you touch the tomatoes and everything as well. It's so much different to what we actually see in the shops in the main.
Yeah.
So why do you?
Had,
Sorry, no, go on.
Well, we grew tomatoes this year and we had a little tomato jungle. I mean, literally,
Yeah.
it was a jungle. My partner says she doesn't like tomatoes, but she was in there every day.
But that's what I did when I was a kid. I went in my dad's allotment. I was in his greenhouse. I was constantly, they never got to grow much more than an inch because I was constantly eating them. But they're
It's
all
freezing
lovely.
away. Yeah.
So why do you think that the government is so slow with their support of less destructive and renewable energies like wind turbines? I mean, we've talked about the money being the root of it, in terms of the bailouts and everything. Do you
Yes.
think this is the same issue here, or do you think it's something different?
I think once again, it's if something's against the law, then it's a kind of a done deal in a way.
Yeah.
So until we make the laws that enforce good, I mean, with energy, I mean, the primary thing is to stop wasting it. We
Yeah.
build houses that are incredibly inefficient in this country. It's just the way we build it. And if the laws were changed, we could make a zero carbon houses with solar on top straight away. It wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
The technology's been there for years.
Yeah.
Wind, solar, they are coming along hugely. I know that sometimes we've generated 40% of our energy from wind and solar some days. And there's a place you can look up and see what the live amounts of energy are coming in. But one of the things we can do as well is, I'm very keen on this myself, is a thing called biochar production.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard of that at all.
No.
So basically, it's a technique that's been used thousands of years elsewhere. And the idea is you take organic matter such as wood, is well dried, and you heat it, and it generates gases. Roughly 40% of the energy comes off as a gas, which is burnable. Now, if we were to grow crops for that, we could use that gases, store them, and use them as peaker plants to match up with wind and solar energy. The biochar then gets crushed and put in the ground as a soil improver. So we're capturing carbon and generating energy for peaker plants at the same time. So there's huge amounts of benefits for that.
Yeah.
At the moment, we're seeing technologies brought in by the government like hydrogen, which at the moment is 95% produced from methane and other sources, and 5% from green sources like solar. I think it's probably more due to backhanders happening, quite frankly, rather than the actual viable technology.
Yeah.
I hope to be proved wrong, but
yeah.
So the government can do a lot more, but it's led by who whispers in their ear.
So a lot of people, they still don't buy organic because it costs so much more. I mean, I would say I've noticed it. I haven't noticed a decrease in the prices. It's not so sort of so much of a difference to what it used to be, but it's still much more expensive. So what would you say to them to convince them that organic produce is much better for them and for the environment? And have you seen any examples of organic produce coming down to match the cost of intensively produced fruit and veg?
I think mainly it's the economics of scales, which mean that until organic becomes a similar sort of scale, or maybe 10 or 20% of that of commercial growers, then it's never going to reach price parity really, unless it's a local system. So, but it's worth I mean, if you go to a local system, they don't have the overheads of selling to a supermarket, etc. So that can bring the cost down significantly. You can find a box scheme in your area that might be able to do a better deal for you, or you could get together with a number of people in your area and say, let's do a big group purchase from these people. But one of the best ways is obviously to grow it yourself. There are physical health benefits, mental health benefits from growing your own. And if you do it like the way probably it's seen on telly, where you buy in this compost and you have to have this particular pot and that special trowel that costs £20, you'll never actually get a return on your seeds, etc. However, if you go to say a seed swap and swap some seeds out with someone else who saves some beans and you save some carrot seeds or whatever, the costs drop dramatically. In our magazine, last issue we did, it was based around the fact that during COVID, people are not going to get as much money. They might not be able to get access to fresh fruit and veg. So we did a lot of articles that people can look at and say, oh, actually, I've got an old shoebox I can grow something in, or I can use toy rollers as a prep for growing our own plants. So it can be really cheap. You can make your own compost. And obviously then, if your wife to buy in, or you want to buy another organic stuff, you don't mind so much because you save so much money in growing your own. And have a look at permaculture. Permaculture is, I don't know if you've heard of permaculture at all. A lot of people who grow veganically follow the concepts. Concepts are basically to be more like nature, to work with nature rather than fighting it,
Yeah.
to look at how nature's done things right. My partner and I, she just moved from her house, and out the front we just had this old pot, and I threw all our old compost in there, from the compost bin. I threw in any old bits of plant material and anything else I could find, and bits of soil into a pot. And in there we put some old green potatoes that started sprouting, some peas. I bought a packet of these dried peas that you can get from a supermarket, pop those in around. I've got a old garlic that's starting to sprout, snip, 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 pop them in. And I think we had something like 6 meals out of a pot about that big, that high. And part of the reason that works is because the potatoes need nitrogen, but peas have root nodules that fixate nitrogen, and they help feed the potatoes and the garlics. So it kind of works as a system. And if people look up the Three Sisters Guild, you can see how nature works together, and that's the sort of thing we want to aim for in growing veganically.
Yeah, so you're literally just putting them all in together in the same place rather than having potatoes, carrots, whatever. Yeah, so you just put them in and they all kind of help each other grow.
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So
one of the things I found, and the first lockdown, what I did is I thought I was going to do some growing my own as well. So I thought, well, salad leaves are dead easy to grow, and potatoes as well, because I remember my dad sort of like growing lots of potatoes when I was little. And the potatoes, there was millions of them. There was absolutely hundreds. But I mean, I thought, I just kept on thinking, no, they're not growing. I just saw these sort of like these massive sort of like leaves coming off. But when you actually go down at the bottom, I had a huge tub, and there was absolutely hundreds of these potatoes, and they were gorgeous. They were just so lovely. Such a different, so different to sort of like the stuff you buy in the shops. So in the UK, we grow a lot of produce. We can, obviously sort of like, relevant to our climate, but we still have to buy a lot in from abroad. Things we can't grow, like bananas and pineapples. So what should we be looking for? I mean, I know obviously fair trade is the obvious one, which most people know about. But is there anything else we should be looking for? Sort of to limit our impact on the environment.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose one of the things is to obviously not waste the food you've got. It's like with recycling, the first thing you do is try and stop using stuff and wasting stuff if you can. I would not buy unfair trade bananas or unfair trade chocolate. I mean, I will buy unfair trade bananas if they're ones that are going to be thrown out if no one else buys them and they're cheap, But yeah, I've done that for many years. It can cause blindness, the sprays that you use with the bananas. And I remember seeing this thing about this poor kid. He worked in, he was about 9 or something, working in a cocoa plantation, and he was using a machete, and there's this chunk out of his leg like this. And I thought, I just don't want to be part of that. Thank you. No. So, but in this country, we can actually grow more than we do at the moment. A lot of it, once again, is down to people not really thinking about things. Like we have power stations, and a lot of the time, these power stations just chuck hot water into the streams or into rivers. But you could use that to warm greenhouses. In the Victorian times, they used to grow pineapples in this country, believe it or not. And that was using waste heat, as it happens, from animal manures. So in Russia, where they have temperatures as low as -30, they actually grew citrus. And the way they did it was they dug great big deep channels into the ground. And when the cold weather came, they would just cover up the trees, and the trees were dormant and they were happy. And then when the sunshine came back, some would get on there, could actually grow citrus. And the heat from the soil, because if you've heard of earth source heat pumps, they work by having pipes under the ground where the average temperature is about 11 degrees Celsius, and they extract the heat from there. So in these big deep ditches, it kept them warm enough to keep them surviving. Where we've got wind turbines and solar, sometimes they overproduce for what we can use on system. So we could use that, for instance, to use a heat pump and warm up greenhouses, etc., if they were situated in a similar sort of place, or to grow lights for bringing stuff on. So there's a lot more we can do in this country. And I would say to people, see if you can promote that, see if you can do it yourself.
Yeah. So it does sound that I was surprised to hear you sort of saying that, like Russia growing sort of citrus fruits and we have been able to grow pineapples. So I suppose we can actually do it. It's just we need to have the will to do it. Right. The easiest way is just to go and buy it from somewhere, somewhere it's flown thousands of miles and created loads of impact on the environment. just for us to have a fresh pineapple. But actually, we can look at doing that in our own country, which I think that'd be pretty exciting if you're growing English pineapples or English bananas or Scottish bananas, or it'd be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a market for it, but it's all down to money. I mean, strangely enough, organic farmers sometimes really struggle to sell the produce, and it's such a shame. So if you can support a local organic grower, please do. That's fantastic. Preferably veganic if you can.
So what advice would you give to someone who's wanting to produce their own fruit and veg? So somebody who's starting from scratch, who's listening to this and thinking, I'm going to give it a go. What are the best fruits and veggies for beginners, and what should they be looking at to make sure that they're looking after the soil as well?
The first thing I'd say is start your compost bin. Have a word with neighbours, see if you can get their compost as well. Don't be proud. Knock on their door, say, if the council's taking this way, can I have it, please? Can I have my neighbours? I've got 2 neighbours who regularly, well, pre-COVID, bring me my grass cuttings, and they're a great source of nitrogen, which is fantastic. Look at no dig as well. No dig makes so much sense. Someone once described to me of how, if you, for instance, your skin is in all the different layers, and if you were to scratch it up and pile it all back up again, that skin's not going to work properly, is it? And it's the same with soil, that there are various layers in there. There are layers where transport of minerals and nitrogen go underground. So no dig is great if you can sort that out. So obviously, have a look on sites and get some information about that. Look more about permaculture. So when you're planting, for instance, one of the best things you can do is plant perennials. So if you've got a south-facing wall, for instance, the back of your house, you've got a garden, there's a nice bit of sun coming across throughout the day, that wall behind it will store the heat in the day and release it at night. So on that wall, you could grow perennials like grapes. If far enough south, maybe nectarines, peaches, apricots, that sort of thing. Don't stick them in the middle of the garden where they're going to get the coldest. Stick in the middle of the garden your leeks. Leeks are a good one. They're quite hardy. They don't tend to have a lot of pests. As you said with potatoes, you can grab some old potatoes that you found under the sink going, oh, they've got legs. Pop them in, You've recycled. And obviously things with big seeds tend to give you a good success straight away, like peas. You can buy packets of cheap peas for like 50p that you can grow 200 pea plants with. Kind of cheating. Anything with a big seed is like to give you a good quick growth, and you're more likely to get success with it, and then work on to the trickier stuff later on. That's what I'd say on that one.
So what is we talked just before we started recording about the land you have. So what sort of things do you have on your land?
Well, when I got my land, I mean, originally I had a 1/10 of an acre garden. It was an old council house, and I'd filled it up with like 60 odd plus fruit and nut trees, and I got something like £425 fruit and veg out of it one year, which was well chuffed with that. But I needed somewhere bigger to grow, and hence I bought the 5.5 acres here. But the soil here was basically boulder clay. So that is clay, or about that much soil. I think clay just keeps going down. They used to mine it up here apparently, but with great big boulders, anything that big in there. So it's taken a long time to work with it. Where I am as well is that we're on the west coast of Wales, or near the west coast of Wales. So as the air comes in, it goes up, and it says, oh, I've got too much water in it, drops it on me basically. So I think we had 2 meters of rain in 4 months once, ridiculous amounts of rain. And the lands have been previously owned by people who did sheep and cattle farming in there. And basically the nutrients are gone, the soil are gone. And I planted willow in there. So basically willow, I planted 12,500 willow roughly. And the idea behind that is that it gives a windbreak. It forms like a walled garden, the way that the sun can come in and the air stays in there rather than being blown away by winds. It holds soil together, and the leaf mulch is gradually building up the soil. So the soil is gradually increasing. It takes a long time, but now I've got to a stage where it is producing proper soil. And where the soil up on the hill is like compacted clay, it's very solid. When the rain lands on there, it just goes and off, and that's it. But my land is now about that much higher, where it's full of plant, animal life and carbon, where they've found leaves. The ones that found leaves, pulled it down, made tubes in there. We've got voles, moles, everything in there. And of course, when it rains on there, it goes plop, and then starts running down. So you reduce flood risk. You get it'll stay wetter longer when the sun comes out, so you don't have to water so much. It's not progressed as far as I'd hoped. There's been various, family things I've had to deal with, double hernias, cat threateners, things like this. Slowed me down a bit. But basically, growing fruit and veg, we've got a hookah culture bed up there. At the moment, I'm growing peas and garlics and raw beans, due to be planted out, but we waited until the big lump of snow had gone. So, but it's amazing wildlife up there now. What was a dead field with the odd sheep splat around there is full of joyous bird song in the mornings, and it's just amazing, the difference.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely incredible. Yeah. So, we mentioned at the beginning that you're the editor of Growing Green International. So how do we get hold of the magazine? Is it, that's the one. So are you a subscription, or is it, do we get you from a website, or how do we get hold of your magazine?
If you go to veganorganic.net, you can see about how to join us. I mean, that's obviously, we'd love you to join us for a host of reasons. One, because it helps yourself, it helps us, but it also helps us get out there and speak to the government, speak to companies, speak to groups, and say, we want veganic food out there. So it's helping us to help you. On the site, we've got 45 back issues of growing veganically. We've got a little booklet which will give you the basics of how to grow veganically. That's all free to download. We've got newsletters you can subscribe to. We used to go to events and stuff, but we now got online events on YouTube, etc., and Facebook. So please come and join us for that. Veganic gardeners, growers, and veganic gardeners question time, and veganic farmers question time. And we'll be interviewing lots of other people as well. So please come and join us at veganorganic.net.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sure people listening to today, there'll be some of them inspired to actually give this a go. It'll be great to sort of to see what people are capable of doing. I mean, I'm certainly going to go back into it in the spring. I'm going to go back into trying to sort of produce more potatoes and things like that. Because I did really enjoy, eating your own stuff is absolutely amazing. But I want to just say thank you very much for giving us your time this morning. And it's been a really, really interesting interview. So I'm going to sign off now. So this is Anna-Amelia from Northeast Animal Rights saying thank you very much, and best wishes to Tony Martin, who is the editor of Growing Green International. So goodbye for now.
Thanks very much for having us. Take care.